Hello, I hope you and your families are well today. Today's lesson is about jobs. Please pause the video if you want to read longer and to write your answers. You will need pen and paper for this lesson. Okay, so today, jobs and duties number 2. So I hope you saw the first video which introduced us to jobs and duties. And what did we say that duties means? Yes, that's right. It means the things that people do in their jobs. And if you look at the pictures below, you can see a picture of someone's job and the things that they do in their job. Perhaps you might remember the words that match these pictures. So today, we're going to ask and answer questions. And here, so lots of speaking practice. Read simple sentences and write simple sentences. Okay, so something for you to do first. I'd like you to write the jobs and places of work. In previous videos, we've looked at jobs, names of jobs, and where people work. So see if you can remember the words for jobs. We will check after, so don't worry if you've forgotten, but have a go now. So take your paper and pen and write down number 1, the name of this job and where she works. Okay, it says here, I work in a, can you remember? Number 2, can you remember his job and where he works? I work in a, can you remember? And number 3, his job. Write down the name of the job and where he works. He says, I work in an, and then here, I'd like you to write the name of the place where he works. And what's her job? Write the name of her job and then where she works. She says, I work in a, see if you can remember. So pause the video now and write down your answers. Play again when you've finished and we will check in the next slide. How did you do? Okay, so number 1, what's her job? Yes, she's a chef. Do you remember that from the first video? And where does she work? She says, I work in a restaurant. And that was in the second video. Number 2, what's his job? That's correct. He's a teacher. And where does he work? He says, I work in a school. And number 3, what's his job? He's a cleaner. Where does he work? I work in an office. And number 4, what's her job? She's a doctor. Now, where does she work? She says, I work in a hospital. Okay, so check your answers. I hope you did well for that. Okay, let's look a little bit more closely at the grammar. Now, when they are speaking about themselves, I. So they're going to use different verbs when talking about themselves. So for example, she says, I'm a chef. I'm a chef. And if we look here, when we speak, we often shorten words. So I am becomes I'm. Don't forget to get that M sound. I am becomes I'm. Now, if we are talking about somebody else, not I, but he, man, or she, woman, we use these words he and she, and the verb changes. She's a chef. She's a chef. Notice the change in the sound, s, as well as the word. And if we look down here, again, we shorten she is to she's. She is to she's. So when you're speaking, make sure that you use these shortened words. Okay, so some more practice with this. What I would like you to do is look at the pictures and write the missing words. You can look back at the first one that we looked at, the chef, and that might help you with what you're going to put in the gaps. Okay, so we've got 1, 2, 3 pictures. You're going to fill in the missing information in the blue speech bubble. And then you're going to write the missing word here about the sentence, like here, okay? Don't forget to look at the picture. Is it a man or a woman? Are you going to use he or she? Don't forget to look at the verb, the one in red, and think about if it's I, you're going to use am or m, I'm, or she's or he's. So pause the button now and have a go at writing those missing words. And we will check when you're finished. How did you do? Okay, let's check. And at the same time, practice giving these sentences speaking. Okay, so let's have a look at picture number 2 here. He says, I'm a teacher. So you should have had that word I'm. And if we're talking about him, we're going to use the word he. He's a teacher. And what does this man say? I'm a cleaner. And what do we say about him? He's a cleaner. Don't forget to get that linking. He's a. And this lady, she says, I'm a doctor. Oh, we've got here, he's the doctor. Is that correct? No, It should be she's. She's a doctor. Okay, some more grammar focus. So again, can you remember her job? Yes, she's a chef. And what does she do? She says, I cook food. And the word in red is the verb. I cook food. And if we're talking about her, she cooks food. Notice when we use he, she, or it, we use the verb plus s. I cook, she cooks. I cook, he cooks. And can you remember his job? What's his job? He's a cleaner. What does he do? Now, this is where you have to try and remember what he does. We looked at this before, in the video before this. Can you remember what he does? So pause the video and fill in the missing word. And here you're going to use he and then the missing word. It's a verb. Look at the example and look here at what the missing word could possibly be. Pause, write your answers. And we've got some more. What does he do? He's a teacher. And students. He, students. So think about the verb, that red word that's missing. What's her job? She's a doctor. What does she do? For people. She, for people. So if you saw the previous video, see if you can remember what they do. Pause now and write your answers. Let's check. Okay, what's his job? That's correct, he's a cleaner. He says, I clean rooms. What's his job? Yes, he's a teacher. What does he do? He says, I teach students. What's her job? She's a doctor. What does she do? She says, I care for people. How did you do? Okay, that was about I. When they speak, they're talking about themselves. Now we're going to have a look at sentences that we can say about those people. So we're going to do some reading and some speaking, giving sentences. What does she do? She cooks food. Notice this is different. When we talk about she, we add an S. She cooks food. And what does he do? He teaches students. Now that's quite difficult, that word. Teaches. It's got an ES because it finishes with a ch sound. He teaches students. And what does she do? She cares for people. And what does he do? He cleans rooms. So all those verbs have an S at the end. Don't forget to get that sound, sound at the end of the verb. You can pause the video, read the sentences again, and practice saying them. Once you finish speaking practice, think about some writing and spelling. Let's see if you can remember what the missing words are. So what does she do? Think carefully. Man or woman, he or she. Think about the verb that matches food. And then what does he do? Again, man or woman, he or she. Think about the verb that matches this word. What does she do? Man or woman? Think about the verb for people. What does he do? Again, think about whether man or woman. Think about the word that matches rooms. Okay, how did you do with your writing? Don't forget to pause when you want to write. And now it's your turn. What's your job? Perhaps you could write a sentence about your job. I'm a teacher. What's your job? What do you do? I teach students. What about you? What's your brother's job? I don't have a brother, but I have a brother-in-law, and he's an IT technician. What does he do? He uses computers. What about your brother? What's his job? And what does he do? So write some sentences. This is for you to do on your own for homework. I hope you enjoyed this lesson. Thank you for watching, and I will see you soon.